Hey, I'm Alicia Newcomb, and this is Assembly Guide, your guide to assembling and organizing as we work to make change in our theatrical industry. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Assembly Guide. Alicia Newcomb here, she, her. I'm your host. Thanks for joining me again. Today, we're talking about unions still, but this time we're talking about unions more generically, and this is applicable to anyone who's a part of a union, specifically unions within the theatrical industry. I've been talking a lot recently about the specifics about making the union that I'm a part of, Actors Equity Association, the union that represents professional actors and stage managers, function more effectively for us. And today, I still want to talk about unions, but about unions more generically. As I've been thinking about all of this and reflecting on my own personal journey getting involved with my union and advocating for workers' protections, I've thought a lot about how members of unions think about the union itself. I've always heard the saying, the union is only as strong as its members. And when the union is not functioning in a way that you personally feel it should, or protecting you in the ways that you want to see, it is so easy to just roll your eyes at that statement. I get it. I've been there, done that, believe me. But myself and everyone else that I've encountered who chooses to function within the system of the union, to be an active part of actually trying to change it and help it function better for us, has gotten there because we've understood in actuality that the union is only as strong as its members. It's not just a saying. And if it's not strong enough, we've realized that we, the members ourselves, have to be a part of changing that for anything to be any different than it currently is. So today, we're going to talk about how we think about unions, how we should be thinking about unions, and any unions, specifically any unions within the theater industry, and why it's so important for us to reframe our perspective if we want to see protections for workers grow and be strengthened. So first and foremost, let's talk about how we think about unions. I think, generally speaking here, I think we collectively think that the union is something that should be in place to protect us. And that's fair. I think that we think, I pay my dues, I'm an active union member, I don't work for the union, it should work for me. And I want to say, you're not wrong. Ideally, the union should function for us and create the protections that we need to be safe and healthy in our workspaces. But this mindset is similar to the concept of, I pay taxes, I vote, the government should work for me. Which, yes. And may I ask, does it? Not engaging with the union is unfortunately like not engaging with our political system and expecting it to protect you effectively. So if we want our unions to protect us effectively, let's talk about how we should be thinking about unions. In my opinion, we should be thinking about our unions, whatever your union may be, as something that we have to actively participate in if we want it to function for and protect us, and to do that effectively. So let's make this comparison between our government and unions again. When the government is not effectively protecting us, do we sit back and do nothing? Or are we taking action in various ways, in whatever way feels like a way that you can engage with specifically? For example, talking to reps, whether on the phone or via email, showing up at town halls, participating in protests and strikes and rallies. Are we doing those things? I think that when the government is not functioning effectively to protect us, hopefully we're doing those things because we have to do those things if we want it to change. This is equally true for a union. If we think of the union not as something that is in place to protect us and we don't have to do anything for it to do so, but instead as something that we have to actively participate in and engage with if we want it to function for and protect us, when it's not working in that capacity, are we participating in things? Are we communicating with our reps? Are we being a part of making sure that the union knows what we want them to fight for? I hope that we are. Is it frustrating? Yes, absolutely. Ideally, in a perfect ideal world, ideally our elected representatives that we voted for And if you're not voting in elections and in union elections, please do. But ideally, our elected reps that we voted for are doing all the work for us. That would be fantastic. And those elected representatives exist within systems that have functioned the way they have for years past. So people can only do a certain amount of things within the systems in which they exist on their own. We have to be a support in helping them fight effectively for us. And did you know that your elected representatives within Actors Equity Association specifically are not paid in any way? They are volunteers donating their time and hours and days and weeks and months and years of work for us for free. They're working actors and stage managers as well. Let's help them out. So in the world in which we exist, in reality, do we get to sit back and have the union work perfectly for us? Do we get to sit back and have the government work perfectly for us? No, unfortunately not. If I could snap my fingers and turn it into a dream world, I most certainly would. But I can't. We have to do some work and stay plugged in. Take action. And take action in a way of advocacy that feels sustainable and approachable to you. But start locking in, paying attention, and thinking about what you can do as an active participant within your union to make the union stronger, to help make the system work effectively for us. Why is it important to reframe our perspective? In reality, as we've addressed, if we sit back and do nothing, the system, doesn't effectively function for us. If nothing changes, nothing changes. People cannot read our minds. And as much as we think something is collectively known across the industry, across other people who do the same types of work that we do, who live in the same world that we do, everyone has different lived experiences and different opinions of what they want to see change. So even if you care about something so deeply that you feel that it's got to be super clear that your union knows that that's a priority to you, if you don't tell them, they don't know. And they can't fight effectively for those things. I also really want this episode to be about all unions and not Actors Equity Association specifically, because as I've been sharing specific action steps for people within my union, Actors Equity Association, the union that I'm a part of, I've had some people from other unions reach out and be like, oh, that's a great action step. Should I be talking to my reps too? Which is why I landed on this topic. I think it's really important that we all understand if we want things to change, we should be talking to our representatives, to our staff members of our union. Absolutely. Please, let's communicate with our unions. And this is super important as well that we reframe this perspective for cross-union support. Something that we saw differently for the first time in the most recent production contract negotiations was unions, theatrical unions, supporting and being there for each other in a way that we had not previously seen. And it was like groundbreaking. And you know who wasn't thrilled about it? The employers. Why were they not thrilled? Previously, unions hadn't really collectively come together, unions within the same industry, in our theater industry, and supported each other in this way and said, hey, we're all in this together. And I think it's because previously we kind of thought of the amount of things that could change as there's one pizza pie of change. And there's only 8 slices in that pie, and we've got to get 3 slices, so they can't get this because then I'm not going to have as many slices that I get, which is such a scarcity mindset. And I don't blame anyone for that. I think that we are collectively raised to have a scarcity mindset as a society, in a capitalistic society. But now there's this shift. There's this shift starting that we saw for the first time. We saw it in the AFM Local 802, the musicians union negotiations as well, where Actors Equity Association showed up and was there in support of the musicians and vice versa when we were in our negotiations. And this shift has the capacity to change everything. If we grab onto this shift and we ride this wave of realizing that collectively we have power when we come together, that we're not going to rely on scarcity mindset anymore. We're going to instead realize that the changes that we want to see all overlap. And when we achieve those changes, a rising tide lifts all boats. We all get stronger. And it's not like, oh, now there's only this much room for change. if you get this, then I don't get this. When we shift that thinking, that can change everything. When we all say this is not okay, it strengthens all of our arguments. When we realize that we have collective needs that overlap, we all need the same things, even if they're different iterations and different manifestations of the same concept. But when we realize that we, the workers, the people who are being exploited typically within like employer-employee situations, we are all fighting the same battles. I think we thought previously we were fighting different battles and have different needs, but it's all the same thing, just showing up in different ways. We're fighting dehumanization and exploitation manifested in various ways. The more that we say dehumanization is not okay, and we say no, and we start drawing those lines, in whatever way that we say so, whatever that shows up as within your union's specific contracts, but the more that we collectively start saying that, the stronger our collective power gets. And when we support each other, we actually strengthen that argument because we're not turning our backs on each other. We're saying dehumanization and exploitation are dehumanization and exploitation. And collectively, as theatrical unions, we are against that, period. The more that we can rally around that and support each other, the stronger we are all going to be. So, all this to say, we should all be talking to our representatives. Imagine how strong we could be if we're coming at this fight against unsafe work conditions, inhumane work conditions from all angles by all unions. Imagine the power in that. Let's think politically again for a second and make this comparison to government again. If everyone who was angry about how the government isn't protecting us and is actually harming people in many, many ways, actually engaged with the government instead of sitting back and expecting it to function effectively and just being angry when it doesn't, if they actually engaged, called representatives, marched, joined in strikes, helped by running for office, going to town halls, etc., if everyone who was upset did that, think of how powerful our voices would be. A union is the same. While the saying makes us want to roll our eyes, a union is only as strong as its members. So when it's not strong enough, we have to take a second and reflect that back onto ourselves and think of whether or not we are being an active part in making it stronger. And if we're not, we're unfortunately just making it weaker. So I can't leave us without action steps. Here are actions we can do to strengthen our unions, to start reframing how we think about unions and how we start rallying this collective power when all the unions can come together and realize that we're all fighting the same fights at these bargaining tables with the same employers who are refusing to the protections that we very well deserve and should have in our workspaces. Have more conversations with members of other unions. If you are someone who's an actor and stage manager, talk to someone who's in wardrobe. Talk to someone who's on crew. Talk to someone who's in hair and makeup. The more that we talk to each other, the better we're going to be able to support each other. Like we saw with Actors Equity Association and AFM Local 802, the musicians union, coming together and supporting each other, we should all be doing that. When are these other unions' negotiations happening? What are their biggest fights? We should be having these conversations in our workspaces because we're going to be able to support each other more effectively and therefore get the changes that we all need and are deserving of in our workspaces. I believe that IATSE Local 764, it's the wardrobe union. Let's learn each other's unions. I believe their negotiations are coming up semi-soon. I need to talk to friends, as you can see, but this is exactly the action step. Talk to each other, talk to our friends within these other unions, and let's support each other better. What do they need for protections? And think about how this is all the same fight for humanity and safety in our workspaces. That is all that it is. And the more we say, hey, they need these things in support of our friends in these other unions, the more likely it's actually going to be that we're going to get those things too when our time comes back around as actors and stage managers. Another action step, learn how to engage with your union. If you don't know how to engage, talk to union leaders. Email your union. If you're an Actors Equity Association, I'm making multiple videos and podcast episodes on specific pathways to engaging with our union and specific action steps with various levels of commitment. So hopefully you can find an action and a pathway that feels approachable to you. But if you're in another union, or if you're an Actors Equity Association, you don't want those pathways, talk to another friend, talk to a union rep, contact your union about how you can get connected. Actors Equity Association specifically, if you want those pathways, check out my last 2 episodes. They're specifically about our union and how to engage and why it's so important and different ways you can lean in. I know it can feel cheesy to hear a union is only as strong as its members. And it's so easy to complain about the union when it's not functioning the way that we want to see it function. What's harder to do is to challenge ourselves to reflect on whether or not we're doing anything to engage with our union and push it to function better for us. I hope that this episode challenges you to reframe how you think about the union, whatever your union may be, and whether or not you're being an active part of ensuring it functions for you instead of just sitting back and being angry when it doesn't. Inaction only ensures that nothing changes. I'm not saying overnight you have to now run for council or even join a committee or write contract proposals. I am saying if you are not happy with the state of your union, whichever that may be, and the protections within your contracts, the only way to ensure that changes is to engage with your union. I want to leave us with this call to action. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, think about one single way that you can engage with your union better moving forward to help ensure it functions for you. If you don't know where to start, if you're an Actors Equity Association, listen to my last 2 episodes. That's episode 12 and 13. Talk to someone else within your union and ask if they know a way that you can be an active part of communicating better with your union or learning more about it. Deputies or union reps would also be a great place to point this question. Listen, when it comes down to it, we're either part of allowing the status quo to continue, which often means those with money and in positions of power are continuing to exploit and harm those with less money and power in whatever situation we're in, or we are a part of making things different, even if it's painfully slower than we'd like it to be. I don't know about you, but I want to be on the side of helping making things change, not allowing them to continue as is. So let's lean in, reframe how we think about our unions and our responsibilities in participating to help make them function better for us. Thank you so much for listening and being here today. Please check out Assembly Guide on Instagram and follow or subscribe for upcoming episodes. Have a topic in mind about creating more humane theatrical spaces you'd like to discuss or hear me talk about? Reach out to me directly at assemblyguidepodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And if you've got someone in mind that you think I should connect with to celebrate and highlight the awesome work that they're doing to make our theater industry more humane, please let me know. I'd love to know about it. Till next time, thanks for joining me on this journey towards change. See you later.